Welcome back to Tech Yes City, and this is the Doc coming back to you guys today with one of those reviews about the CNPS14 speed Zalman 140mm fan CPU cooler. Now, this thing is a strongly not recommended. I do not recommend this unless you got it given to you for free. Even then, the hassle and the pain of installing this thing might make you want to throw it in the bin. So anyway, this thing, I'm going to quickly be reviewing this because I just don't want to spend too much time on it. Literally, I couldn't even be bothered throwing up charts because I'm not going to recommend this cooler. I'll just talk about the temps that I got on this when I was testing it, when I was doing the AMD testing on this test bench here. But ultimately, let's talk about the positives because there's so many negatives to go through and there's so little positives. I'll quickly mention the positives. The first positive is that this CPU cooler, once it's installed, after you finally get it installed, it actually does look pretty good. I mean, it looks pretty big, it looks good in your rig. I do like the styling of it. The next good point is that it does cool reasonably well. I mean, it's better than the stock cooler for cooling performance. Once I got it installed, it was I did an IDA 64 30-minute benchmark, and it was I think the ambient temperatures were 9 degrees, so it was really cold, but I only managed to get it up to 29 degrees, so it was a 20 degree delta at 4.4 gigs on the AMD CPU. So it is about 20 degrees, and I did test it in the Zalman case, but it's only for 5 minutes. I'm going to test it a little bit more. It was doing a fine job at 4.4 gigs, so it does cool okay. Not as good as the NMAX T40, I know that, because the NMAX T40 is a beast. Anyway, this thing, yeah, they're the two good points that I can think of. Let's get on to the bad points. Straight away, the first thing is you're installing this CPU cooler. The fins are really sharp, so if you're a diabetic with thin skin on your hands or your hands cut easily, you may be cutting your hands on this thing. It was, my hands are okay, but I just thought, damn, even coolers 10 years back in the day, like an old Noxure cooler that I put on my way back, forgot what CPU cooler I put it on, back in 2006, maybe 2005, even that was fine. I mean, that didn't have sharp edges. This thing really was just like a cut, like in the factory. Let's release some ninja knives to people and call it a CPU fan, because essentially, yeah, you cut your hands on this pretty easily. I think they're pretty sharp, definitely a lot sharper than the NMAX T40, and I'm going to be comparing this throughout the review to the NMAX T40 because they're similarly priced. I mean, this was about $30. The NMAX was $30, however, it went up to $34, and I thought, hell, I'll try a new CPU cooler, and I get to give you guys a review as well. But in hindsight, I wish I had never got this cooler. Man, let's get on to the worst part, was installing this thing. Holy crap. When I got the instruction manuals out, they just clumped Intel, AMD, everything together. Just clumped it all in one section, and you had to read the whole thing and free-for-all it. And then the pictures were illustrating the installation so bad. There was no circle or no sort of there was no sort of enlarged graph on what point they were talking about. They just put the diagram in two parts and just said, okay, and you just had to look really closely, and you're like, oh, there's the subtle difference right there. Like, definitely, if your eyesight wasn't 20/20, you freaking probably wouldn't even see the difference in the instruction manual. That's how poorly written the instruction manual was for this thing. Now, let's get on to the other part of the installation. Installing this thing was just like a ghetto job because I had mounted it to my test bench, and I didn't realize, but once I took it out of my test bench, which took forever, and got it installed in the Zalman Z3 Plus, I realized that, holy crap, this CPU cooler, I mean, they gave you this double-sided tape, and it came off, and you couldn't install it again. It was just useless. I had to get some nail polish remover and get it off, because half of it came off, and half of it was stuck on the friggin' base still. So I'm now using it in the Zalman Z3 Plus case, which is a fantastic case, by the way, but I'm using that with just no double-sided tape. I just decided to leave it out. I mean, why they even included it if it was so bad is just beyond me. They could have saved themselves some money because you don't even need the double-sided tape, but stupid there as well. Now, the worst thing, this is the worst thing, right? When you're installing it, it's like you're sitting there and you're like, okay, is this right? Is this how I install it? And then you finally get it installed once you're clamping down the screws, and they pretty much clamp in, but there's no washer, there's no bolt in between. It's just like this free ghetto spring mechanism that they're using. It's absolutely horrid. I've never seen anything worse for clamping down a CPU cooler in my life. I mean, even the stock Intel and the stock AMD coolers clamp down miles better than this thing. And that leads me on to the other bad point about this cooler is it's so hard to screw the frickin' cooler in, like if you need to take it out. If you've just got your whole rig installed and you've got to maybe remove the CPU cooler because you want to replace the CPU paste, or you want to tighten it down again, you literally are in fat luck because you can't get this CPU cooler clamped down again, and honestly it will inevitably come loose because of the ghetto spring mechanism pulling against the bolt, because there's no washer, there's no sort of tension bolt in between. It's just there's this spring, there's this piece of metal that's pushing against the bolt, which over time it will come loose. And so if you want to pull it and tighten it again, you're gonna have to take your whole rig out, whole motherboard out, and then get to it with their little like ghetto screw thing. And like literally this thing is just horrid. Do not buy it. I'm surprised that in 2014 I don't know when this was released, maybe last year, 2013, I'm surprised they could release a cooler this bad. I mean, did they test this thing themselves before they sold it? Because I mean, yeah, the spring tension's gonna be pulling, and I couldn't even get into the top left corner when I tried to tighten them down again on the Zalman Z3 case. I could tighten 3 of them, but I couldn't tighten the top left corner. It was like impossible. So even if my baby, even if I could have the hands of the size of my baby, I couldn't install this cooler. So absolutely horrid point there. What else was just there? And this is now, let's get on to another bad point about this case. So sorry, I got to tell you guys why you shouldn't be buying this freaking cooler. The noise, it's just horrible. They say here on the back, let's have a look here. Low noise. They say here low noise. 140 millimeter PWM fan with low noise. Let me play the noise for you right now. Is that low noise to you, man? I noticed it straight away. Coming from my Animax T40 to this thing, it was horrid. The noise was bad. It was the worst fan in my whole system, and it shouldn't be, especially when the CPU cooler is really cool. They should have a switching mechanism that goes from low to high, but they write here on their box conveniently, no switching noise. No switching noise? What? Switches on a CPU cooler make no noise. When my Animax changes speeds, the fan just simply ramps up. So really, goddamn, I mean, Animax really have to pay attention to detail, because this thing is horrid. Oh, and there's another bad point. Let me talk about another horrid point of this cooler. It wobbles. Even if you tighten it to the extreme, which I did, this thing just wobbles. It wobbles. It wobbled on my test bench. It wobbled. It's wobbling in the Zalman Z3, so they should have renamed this cooler the Zalman CNPS14 speed wobble, because it'll wobble 14 times harder than any CPU cooler you used to. So honestly, yeah, I mean, it come like a little good point about it is they do include some thermal grease and stuff like that, but yeah, I mean, honestly, I cannot recommend this cooler. It was just a horrible experience. Okay, so in conclusion, I cannot recommend this CPU in any circumstances. It was the worst experience I've ever had with the CPU cooler, and this is going back from memory, even back when I was installing CPU coolers in like 2005. And I mean, that was when the market was still relatively young. That was when the CPU cooler market was kind of just starting to get some traction and getting popularity. This thing is like 2013, I don't even know, when was this thing released, 2012, but I mean, a modern CPU cooler like this, sucking this bad, is just not on. Like, I mean, it really did not hit any points for me. I mean, it did look good, but hey, for me, looks do not really matter on a rig. I mean, I'm not sitting here looking at my rig 24/7. I'm playing video games or doing content for you guys or working on my computer. So looks really don't bother me. I'd rather have the ugliest CPU cooler in the world that's a breeze to install and performs really well than have this thing, which is a good looking CPU cooler with high noise and a horrid installation. And I even dread the day when I'm gonna have to retighten the bolts on my AMD rig. So God, I cannot recommend this CPU cooler under any circumstances. I hope you guys enjoyed this review. This product was just frustrating. I didn't enjoy doing it, so I really want to just get on with this, get on to the next review. So I'll be reviewing an SSD soon, and also I will be, you guys can say hello to the ghetto highs as they're sitting there. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'm going to go now and peace out. And if you did like this video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you have any questions about this CPU cooler, which I don't think you should have, yeah, seriously, don't buy it. This is just one of those things that you don't talk about. One of those embarrassing things that you don't talk about and you don't tell your kids about. This is that CPU cooler. Anyway, guys, peace out for now. Bye.